Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, I will start for everybody who's watching this recording, just a little bit of backdrop. I'm Lara, I'm the creator of LYT, and this is Rhonna, the director of education and programming. I've run teacher trainings for a long time. I started teacher training is one of my biggest passions, and it's actually the root of the reason why I even created public setting for LYT. I started teaching out of my house. I had been teaching yoga. I was working as a physical therapist. This is now 30 years ago. Woo! It's hard to believe. That's when I became a yoga teacher and physical therapist same time, 30 years ago in August, and was running kind of parallel tracks with that. And then started feeling like there was a gap between people understanding their body and moving their body in the practice of yoga. And I was doing PT is really rooted in education. So I was doing all this education by day in the clinic, and wasn't really infusing it as much into the yoga practice because, or teaching, like many people, I was kind of following the way yoga was presented and taught, which is more about like the shapes and the forms and the philosophy and a lot of beautiful things. But there was, to me, there was that gap in it was an opportunity to teach people more about how to move well and how to specialize with their own body in the and manage the needs they need for their own body and history. And that wasn't always what I saw. Even though yoga is purported to be inclusive, it wasn't really as inclusive as I thought it could be. So I started teaching and blending these two, what is now called LYT. And I was doing that in a home studio and had, over a decade, got to having like 160 people. And they would always complain when I went away. And one time somebody said, "Oh, please don't go away when you're on vacation. I don't feel safe going to any other classes." And that just struck me as like, it wasn't just like I don't like them. It was really like I don't even feel like I can go. And so that made me realize like there's just a lot of yoga teachers out there who love yoga, but they haven't been empowered by the knowledge of how to guide people intelligently, individually. And so that was really the impetus to create a teacher training. Was I wanted to support the teachers who had spent money on a training and didn't necessarily get what they wanted. So I created teacher training, and then I had to open a studio to have teachers teach, and then that just kind of snowballed. But it's always been my love because education is such a passion, and it's information that shouldn't be gatekept. It kept. It's information we all need. We all have a body, and it's an opportunity every time you practice to learn more and be informed. And so our training is truly the most robust and comprehensive functional anatomy biomechanical training infused with the other elements of yoga teacher training, including teacher methodology and philosophy. And it's woven together in this really beautiful way. Rhonna went through the training over 10 years ago. I used to only do live trainings. And then I would get people traveling from afar, but it was really difficult. It's like a big endeavor. It takes a lot of resources, both time and money, to take a month off of your daily life and be able to travel. But I did get some international folks, Kat being one of them, Sally,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so then I decided, like, after a lot of people had asked, please do something online, blah, blah, blah. So I created online teacher training, and following what I had been doing over the, 3 to 4 week program that we did for the 200-hour. And in many ways, and that launched in January of 2020, many ways I find, and people that have gone through my in person and then they automatically get access to the online have said that it's even better. And so that for people who are sometimes not sure about online, I'm going to tell you all the pros of it. Nothing beats the energy of in person, of course, but what we find is people have this wonderful community energy. We meet like this on Zoom once a week, and you have access to this material anytime, for your lifetime. So that means that when you have a lecture on, what is the difference between movement in the pelvis and movement in the hips and why is it important for the pelvis to be stable, you aren't looking at a manual, vigorously writing things down, and then just like, of course, we reinforce it every week, but you also can go back to the lectures at any time. And so that repetition, that ability to revisit things, is just important for learning. And we find that people who were intimidated by anatomy, who were intimidated by the amount of material, you'll be able to see it in a moment. Rhonna will show us that even they fall in love with anatomy. They really get it because we build off of different themes, different focuses, and then we always revisit and reinforce from that foundational knowledge. So that's really how it all started. We've now have over 1,000 teachers all around the world, and we love this so much. We love it. We love it. So, Rhonna will take over. You can share some things about the training, etc.
Thank you, Laura. Hi. For everyone who's watching this, and I know some of you I have interacted with before, my name is Rhonna Griffin. I did my level 1 teacher training with Lara in 2014, along with Kristen Williams, who is another senior team member here at LYT and a senior instructor. He and I did our teacher training at the same time. Shortly after that, Lara was doing the 500-hour, also in person and in modules, and I went through that as well. And so I have been a longtime LYT practitioner and teacher, and I'm an educator by day, so school teacher by day, and I love the blending of kind of using my educational skill set and then in a different facet in terms of getting to teach adults and to talk about things through movement. So I am going to take you all a little behind the scenes tour of the way the training looks, and then sometimes that can elicit some questions. The beautiful part about when we open enrollment up, which enrollment is open right now, you get immediate access to the training, which means you can get a head start on the material. So while the training is technically a 10-week long course with an additional 2 weeks in the middle, in truth, because we open up 8 weeks prior, and you have about another 5 to 6 weeks, 5 weeks at the end to complete the materials, you actually get about 6 months of time where your training time is within 6 months, and you can watch the materials, all the pre-recorded materials at your own pace. And then the live component of the training is when we host live calls with Lara and myself and other team members. And we lecture, small lectures on specific content. We do demos with you all to kind of give you the chance to feel and embody some of the cues that we talk about, not only in the classes, but also in the lectures and in the labs. And so that kind of gives you a chance to really feel those internally and embody them in a more meaningful way. So the live calls are always recorded and uploaded to the training. So if you're not able to attend live for any particular reason, those calls are there for you to review after. They are considered a required portion of the training because there is core content that is usually instructed during those calls. So they're really a wonderful community building time, educational time, and also just a way to get feedback on your practice as well, which is great. So let me share my screen and I will get you, let's see here. Share. All right. So you should be able to see the training now. So let me just hide my floating meeting controls so there's less in my way to navigate. So at the beginning of the training, we do start with the student licensing agreement that unlocks everything else, which basically just states that this material is for you and you alone, and please don't share it with anyone else. And then the introduction has all the important information that you need about the training, discount codes that you're eligible for, such as the free month of LYT Studio, which comes along with the training, the course outline and downloads, such as the manual and all the typed flows are here, the live call schedule and links. And I'll click on this momentarily because I think it's important for you to be able to see that the times, and this comes up frequently, the times can sorry, we host calls once a week on Saturday or Sunday, and we do stagger the times throughout the day so that if you're a person who always teaches on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. or you have a family function on Sundays at 2, you're not always going to miss the call. So we do stagger them. So you'll see the first one is at 11 a.m. Eastern time on a Saturday, and the second one is at 4 p.m. Eastern on a Sunday. Week 3 is at 6 p.m. on a Friday. And so we are intentional about staggering the calls. You'll also notice that you can see the topics that we're going to talk about on these particular calls. So what makes it unique, developmental sequencing, and then the type of demos that you could expect during that particular call. So those are the topics that are listed. During the 2-week break, there is going to be it's not required, but it is a wonderful opportunity. We're going to get together and actually practice together. And then I will give personal feedback on your practice in terms of things that I saw. Week 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you can see it's all the times are scattered about the weekend as well. And then finally, at the end of the training, we do a yoga philosophy and action call, which is a really lovely time to we focus so much on the anatomy and the biomechanics and what it means for movement and education. But woven throughout all of the lessons is the philosophical concepts. So it's a really nice thing to have the Zoom at the end where we just focus on that and talk about matters of the heart. And then finally, we always have our closing circle and our fire class. And so I'll just point out, if the week 10 kind of finishing call is November 9th, we then have until January 17th when technically the training is complete. So there is a significant amount of time after the training that you can continue to work on your materials and prepare your final class. Additionally, all of these things can be added to your own personal calendar, and all of these Zoom calls, and we do include them. You get an email an hour before each call as well. So, the other kind of fun stuff here, requirements for certification and instructor agreement. And then finally, let's take a look at a week of instructional content. So every week starts with a class that Lara leads. The week 1 class is called Free Your Asana. And then after that is a class breakdown. The class breakdowns are vital because they give you the why behind every single pose, transition, because we want you are going to be licensed to teach these classes. And we don't want you to just be like, this is what she said, so this is what I'm saying. We want you to understand the why and how it relates to the theme and the cues that are given, how it relates. So the class breakdown is always provided so that you can really teach these classes, the 10 that are provided throughout each week, with a lot of integrity and understanding of what the concepts are. Following Lara's class, which is more of an intermediate level class, I offer a shorter version and slightly more beginner style that is, we call it our modified version. And then at the end of the modified version, I also do a very small breakdown where I include why I changed and what I changed from Lara's, and why it's meaningful for someone who's more in a beginner population space. Following the classes are yoga philosophy, and then teacher methodology, an anatomy review, and then you'll see this is the anatomy review. It's always interesting to me that this first one is labeled review, because we all have some background knowledge about anatomy. We know that this is called our skull. We know that we have arms and we have bones and we have muscles. And so one of the things that I love that Lara does so brilliantly in all of the anatomy lectures is she really deals with things in a very bite-sized manner and then kind of scaffolds on information over time. And so even this first anatomy lesson is a review of things that you may already know, and then we'll continue to build upon that as the course progresses. I'm actually going to open up the posture lecture now. And one of the things you'll notice about the posture lecture is that it is very lengthy. It is an hour and 48 minutes long. Uh, Lara's a little smirking over there. But I point this out because what we've done is underneath these very lengthy lectures, we have actually time chunked them into segments so that you can say, oh, I only have a half an hour right now to listen to this lecture. And so you can say, okay, I'm going to do the first two segments and listen today, which just allows you to kind of take these larger lectures and break them up into bite-sized pieces. Something else that's worth pointing out, which you can see on the screen right now, is that all of our instructional videos do have English closed captions, which you are welcome to turn on and off down here in the playback bar. The other thing that's really useful for some people is the ability to change the speed. For some people who English is their second language or just need things to hear them slower, you can slow things down. If it's something that you're more comfortable, familiar with, and you want to listen to it a little bit faster to save some time, you can do that as well. So the English closed captioning was a big endeavor we took on a couple of years ago, and it's something that I think is always worth pointing out. I know even for me, I love watching shows and movies with closed captions because it allows me to really be like, oh, that's the word that they said. And then it brings more context and understanding to what's happening. So that is a little sneak peek of the week. I'll back up one more moment here, and then you'll see that at the end, there is a weekly assessment. This is usually about 10 questions. We have you can take it as many times as you need to in order to achieve the passing grade of 80% or higher. Some of the questions are open-ended, some of the questions are multiple choice, and it really is just a chance for you to reflect on the week's content and say, how much has saturated and how much has not. And so you do need to pass all 10 quizzes in order to complete for certification, but you can take them as many times as you need to. There are supplemental materials. We did this because these used to be included in the core content. However, when we shifted a year and change or so ago, our live call format, we decided to take some of these ideas and build them into the live calls. So these videos here are now not required, but they are still wonderful if you wanted to hear, we talk about developmental principles in that live call, and you're like, really, I want to hear Lara talk more about that. And so this is still here for you. And then also, if the week's philosophy topic was intriguing to you and you'd like to hear more about it, but through somebody else's perspective, we have guest lecturers who have done those. So that is a sneak peek of 1 week, and all of the weeks are exactly the same, which is amazing in terms of their format, the classes, breakdown, modified versions of class, philosophy, teacher methodology, and then any anatomy, physiology, lectures happen at the end. You'll notice this little section right here that says Fall 2025 live call recordings. When the training starts on September 6th and we do our welcome call and all of our subsequent weekly calls, those recordings will be uploaded to this space. There's nothing there at the moment, but then at the very end of the training, and this is just an important part because as Lara mentioned earlier, you all do have lifetime access to the training. At the very end, you'll see this thing that says previous training live calls. And when you click there, you can see here's cohort 11's calls, here's cohorts 10's calls. And then once your training is done, it will be right here in cohort 12's calls. So you will always be able to go back and kind of check in on your own trainings, live call recordings, and take a look and refresh and review all of that. So that is, let's see here. Ooh, I forgot there was one other thing. Just this year, when we revamped our self-guided training, we created some new bonus content, and I want to point that out. So this is kind of neat because while you all as team guided training trainees will get a free month of LYT Studio on our LYT Daily Studio platform, we wanted to include some classes from LYT Studio that correlate to each week's theme. So one of the big themes in week 1 is posture. And so you'll notice here that we've selected 3 different classes from LYT Daily with different instructors, myself, Kristen, and Lara, that really focus on posture. And then in week 2, when we're talking about the pelvis, we have, again, 3 different classes by varying instructors that are all about the pelvis. And then the same is true as we go throughout continue through each week. Week 4 has a ton of, it's a heavier week in terms of pre-recorded content. So I was kind and I just gave you 2 bonus classes is there because there's a lot of other content. Now, with that said, the bonus content does not have to be watched as bonus. So it's there for you to enhance and your training experience, but it is not required. So I just wanted to point that out because that is, I had a moment of like, oh yeah, that's there because it's still so brand new for us too. So the required content are the 10 weeks worth of content and those live calls. So that is our little sneak peek of the back end of the training. And I'd love to open it up if you have any questions about the training, any functions within that that have come up as of right now.
That was really interesting. Thank you so much. It was really, yeah, it was really good to see how you actually structure it, and it feels, yeah, I feel it's a bit, it's achievable.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah, around
Yeah.
my and the other things that I've got going on. So yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
think the beautiful part is that, at the end of each week, it is never the expectation that you have mastered the content at the end of one week. And at the end of the training, it is not expected that you've mastered everything. So I think sometimes people can put a lot of expectation on themselves to be like, oh, I don't understand it all yet. I need more time. Of course, we all need more time. I still go back and watch some of these videos and I'm like, oh, I love the way that was said. Yes, I forget about saying that sometimes. So I think, take some of the pressure off of yourself that it has to be, all done perfectly, and that it gets mastered by the end of the training, and do as much as you can. We always say that you don't have to do Lara's classes and my classes. You could listen and watch to Lara's and practice mine. You could practice Lara's and you could listen to mine in the car as you're doing, or on your phone listening to while you're folding laundry. So there are a lot of the things that, and this kind of comes up in live calls and with a mentor as well, is that some of the lectures you may be able to, with your earbuds in, just kind of like set it to play while you're cooking, while you're doing laundry, and they can be listened to in that way, to kind of just take the content in, and then you can reflect on it more in the future, especially depending on where you are in your stage of life and or what your intention is with this, with regards to, do I want to be a teacher? Am I doing this for my own edification and knowledge? So depending on your own intention for enrolling in the training could determine how you move through the content as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think initially I'm thinking I'm doing it for myself basically, because I need a project right now. But no, it's not just that. I've having done a couple of retreats and been on the platform for a while now. Um, yeah, it just is really amazing for me to be doing this, and yeah, I just want to build on that now really. And
Yeah.
but I'm having chatted to other people, I'm not saying I'm saying no to the teaching aspect. I have done a lot of adult teaching in my life, so yeah, this may be something that I will consider doing. Yeah, for sure.
Wonderful.
I hope you do, because people, they love it for themselves, and it's just this knowledge that you're getting, yes, from the platform, but then you're getting like such a deeper dive into it, so it can be brought into all of your other activities that you do. And yeah, even if you start sharing it with your family or a couple of friends, people have been delighted to realize that it's like too much goodness they don't want to share in some ways, but it can be absolutely in all kinds of forms that are not ever in a yoga studio,
Mm,
book clubs, or local community things, or again, friend groups. Because it's when you really love something and you want to know more about it, then you also want to often share about it. But I think doing it for yourself is always, I think that's really the key. A lot of people find that they sign up with that in mind, and
mm.
then they take it to whatever degree they want to. But it's just like taking a advanced course on yourself,
Yeah.
which is good to take at any age, and it's never too late to do and to learn a lot about yourself, because you'll find in again, it is very dense in the anatomy, but it's also the anatomy of the spirit. I mean, anatomy is the examination of what is happening underneath, right? And that's really all of it. So it's also all the philosophy is very much baked into the themes of the week. So often people they'll come for the anatomy and they actually talk about how much all the other stuff changed their lives. So
Mm,
like know that that is another reason. It's just like going and diving deep into self-study, which is one of the you know, one of the yogic philosophical tenets is it's
mm,
called svadhyaya. It's like self-study. Well, how do we self-study? We do it through the body because that's like the easiest vehicle. And then that can really help, you know, with the other layers. And of course, with your background, Sally, you've done a lot of that, but it's just a different
mm.
approach to it. So I think from that point, both academically and spiritually, I think you'll find it incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yay.
Lara, do we want to demo? Oh, hi, Emily.
Hi. Hey,
Hi
Emily, do
there.
you have any questions?
I do.
Thanks.
Is this an all
Yeah.
right time to? Okay, great. So this has been really helpful. My big question is, which is a bit long, I guess, but I got certified to teach about 7 years ago, and it's sort of the quintessential story. It's like not enough anatomy background. I got injured. I felt like students were getting injured. And then I had some health stuff that also exacerbated some injuries. So I'm coming back from a number of injuries and also a general lack of movement.
Mhm.
Um, I'm on the LYT platform. It's wonderful, but I'm at a point where I'm only practicing. I can only do about like 20 to 30 minutes. So my question is just, is this training appropriate for someone who's currently limited?
Mhm.
Um, and Yeah, I guess my main thing is a shoulder injury right now. But I'm so interested in,
Oh, yes. I
yeah,
think this is the perfect time.
okay.
In fact, sometimes when there is a real need
Yeah,
in a need state, this is the best time
okay.
because you're approaching it with such like you're going to soak it up in such a different way because of that need state, because you're applying it to your own needs, your
Mhm.
needs that have been in your history. But we've had people that have had injuries, that have been pregnant with their fourth baby, that have like etc. who take it.
Okay.
Post-surgical, like someone ended up
Post-surgical,
having a
you name
major
it.
surgery
Yeah.
during week one, and but just like listened and was on Zoom calls listening and didn't practice like the practicing. And I don't mean to cut Lara.
Go
Yes,
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Just like
No, no.
yes, yeah.
No,
I
it's
think that the
because what you're doing
practice.
also is you're setting up, even learning about it, even if you aren't yet able to practice all of the elements of
Right.
it, that is also part of the brain wiring.
Okay.
Because that's setting up the information. And that you can do like similar what you do the lit practice. You know, if we have every week is one class, I have a class, Rhonna has a class. You can, number one, I don't know if you already do this on the LIT platform, you can slow down the class like she was showing. So it's going slower for you. We always recommend this for people who are coming back from injury,
Yeah.
prenatal, early postpartum, hypermobile. There's that little hamburger dial, and you can just go to 0.75, you know, and we have people regularly who do that on Lit Daily because they love all the movement and they know that it's been, you know, organized in a way that has to be a certain time, but they need it to be slower for their own practice.
Okay.
And so they slow it down. So you could absolutely do that for the training, for the movement part, for the sections of that. And you could do like what you are able to do and then come back and pick up a little bit more or watch the rest of it. And what
Okay.
will be really fascinating is over those 3 months is you will see a tremendous change.
Hmm.
Because one thing that you probably are lacking if you've had a shoulder injury and you said you were prone to some other injuries and is like the proprioception knowledge of like where things are in space. And
Mm.
that will really, really improve dramatically because of the way we build anyway. And you're kind of coming into it in a different way. You know, you're coming into it from a knowledge standpoint, but it's also the building blocks, which
Yeah.
I do in every lit class, but we can't do it every lit class, pull all that in. But it's literally like we start with the pelvis. Why is neutral pelvis so important? What does it mean? How does it translate
Mm.
up and up the chain, out down the chain? How is that neutral pelvis related to your shoulder? So that's again, you're going to come into it like with a different inquiry that will really, I think, just make things land even deeper. And then
Yeah.
we go into the shoulder girdle and how the pelvis, I mean, how the shoulder and hips are similar. What's the distinction between pelvis and hips? What's the
Mm.
distinction between shoulder joint and hips, even though they're both ball and socket joint? Big, they have a lot of similarities, but also some big differences. Then we go into the spine, all the
Mm.
core muscles, and how they are all integrated and how the way we sequence things, it's the intelligence of the sequencing. And that's where I think injuries in yoga occur because of that. It's not a move per se. It's not, but it's that the transitions and the way things are sequenced are not preparing the brain body to best support the bigger movement patterns.
Okay.
So you're going to have a much deeper understanding about why these things are done in this particular order, how that's really preparing the neuromuscular pathways so that you
Mm.
have that responsiveness in your shoulder when you're doing something with demand, when it's mobilizing and what else is needing to be stable during that mobility. How does the shoulder itself, like the shoulder section is really a favorite for a lot of people because it's it's just a genius joint, but it's really poorly understood until you
Okay.
have an injury. And then it's like, what is going on? The injury is
Yeah. Yeah.
always in the humerus, but usually that's not the source of the injury. The injury is usually in the sources. Well, you get into all that. So the point is, yes, this is the
Okay.
best time in a way to take it because you're coming in with a very specific like need and want
Yeah.
beyond just you're wanting, like you said, and this is again why I created this, is so
Mm.
many teachers loved yoga, they wanted to teach it, and then the trainings, quite frankly, just are really fall short of that because
Right.
you learn a little anatomy, but it's not even applied. It's like learning it in an academic cerebral way without applying it into actual function. So
Right.
that, for anyone, that's not gonna stay. You're gonna really like not understand, well, what is the supraspinatus,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
learning it is great and seeing it on a diagram, but it doesn't mean anything if it's not put in function. Yeah.
Okay. That's so helpful because I had been active my whole life and really was so lucky, never got injured, and then had this sort of cascade, and it's brought me to a place where I feel like I've not lost faith in my body, but definitely need a deeper understanding
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
I feel safe again,
Yeah.
moving.
That's like
Yeah.
that is the number one
Yeah.
thing. And
Okay.
knowledge of your body and the home that you live in
Great.
is the key to feeling safe in it. If it
Yeah.
feels foreign or unknown or unpredictable, it's scary because you
Yeah.
don't know like what action might set it off. And
Right.
that's a terrible feeling for anyone. So I that's again like you're kind of in the perfect need state of really helping yourself and I always say like the best thing we do, I think, as lit teachers is really to help people feel more at home in their body.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. I
Yeah.
hope you both sign up. Um,
Too.
yeah, and like, and if something comes up, we're super, 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 super flexible. Like if something comes up, you get way behind, get re-injured. That's not going to happen. But let's just say whatever.
Mhm.
Um, you just write us and say, I need to take a pause on this. And then we just are like, hey, just join the next cohort, or hey, like let's hop on, Rhonna offers movement consultations. Like, let's just see. But those Zoom calls, again, we like, you can never feel like you're taking up too much space. take up a ton of space. Like, I need you to look at my plank because it still doesn't feel right. We're going to ask you to, like, we're going to look at, like, I'm going to see a bunch of you moving and I will say, hey, Emily, let's take a look at that. And you'll get comfortable because all we're trying to do is share knowledge. It's not ever about like perfecting alignment or anything like that. It's just about putting into the putting into the body all the knowledge. And so we help you along every step of the way. And Rhonna briefly mentioned that you also are going to have a mentor. So in addition to having us, you also will have a mentor, and that mentor, there's a mentor call once a week as well. That is optional. It's kind of like when the professor has office hours type thing, but people love those. The last cohort we just graduated, almost everybody showed up for those and really got to know another lit teacher. And it's always great to hear from another voice as well.
Great.
You get a lot of support along the way. It's already integrated, but in addition to that, you can always reach out to us at any point.
Okay. And so it sounds like you get to really honor your limits and you have to push past, like if you can't do X, Y, or Z, it's not like you're not going to pass the training.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
There's no performance requirement
Yeah.
for this.
Great.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because a lot of times people ask with the final class that has to be turned in order to finish for certification. They're like, I don't know that I can practice, like I've said, we've had people who were pregnant, people postpartum, post-surgery. And they're like, I don't know that I can practice. And it's like, actually, one of the first things we talk about in the training is how to be an observer. And the fact that you are dealing with your own thing allows you to kind of take yourself out of the equation. And how can you just observe the clients and teach? And so it is absolutely fine, Emily, if you have someone on the mat here for your final class and you are standing and you're like, okay, let's come into bridge, and you stand and you instruct and they practice. You do not need to practice. Can you, if you want to practice alongside them? Sure. But do you have to? No. The instruction is what we want to see at the end, not to necessarily watch you practice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. It does.
Yeah. You're
But
welcome.
in fact, the way that, when I had the studio and when we did the online in-person trainings, is that you had to instruct off of a mat, like, because the whole idea is, as a teacher, you're there to guide, to lead, to inform, to educate, not to perform. There's things obviously you're going to need to kind of show that people, but Sally, you've been with me on a retreat. You are practicing and I am teaching. I will demonstrate some things as needed because there are different types of learners. Some need the visual. There's enough people in the room, like how in Tenerife there was, and even in Greece, there's enough people who are really familiar, who have gone through the training. They are great visuals for people. But as a teacher, like, we really are about teaching and understanding it. And so being able to say it without having to put it in like, oh, well, this is what I want you to do. It's like, oh, to be able to articulate, step your foot forward, come into crescent lunge is like a very necessary thing to be able to articulate versus to always have to demonstrate. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I think you guys answered everything that I was thinking about.
And anything else from you, Sally?
I don't think so, really. I'm just going to sign on the dotted line. Yeah.
There you go.
Excellent.
That's the answer. Wow.
Lara, do we want to demonstrate really quickly kind of the way one of the demos would work in a live call, and like what the type of feedback that's given in the live call was? Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
Okay. What would you, I'm going to be like, I have a question about my plank. Okay. So I am going,
so I'd be like,
Lara, can you look at my plank? It doesn't feel very good.
So first of all, we would pin Rhonna so everybody can see. And Rhonna would be in plank and we're going to look at it. And I would give you a chance to look at it, and I'd say, okay, what do you see there? Like, even if it's and I'll talk about, like, you don't have to think like this over this and this, but I'm looking at the energy, and the energy is kind of going into her mid back. And how do we get that out? Well, she got her shoulders over her wrist more. So move your shoulders over your wrist And then bring your front ribs toward your body more and lengthen your tailbone to your heels. Yeah, so that's already a much more integrated plank. So I go through like what I look at, what I see, but I also might say to you all like, well, what do you see? I won't do that week 1 or week 2 usually, I'll kind of like tell you what I see. And there's no right or wrong answer. Like you could literally just say, yeah, it kind of looks like it's not really a plank, it's not a line. And then we'll just talk about, well, what are some quick specific cues you can give? Because, when you're in a group class, or if you're just teaching a few people, you want to be like super clear and specific. And it doesn't need to be, well, Rhonna, your spine isn't neutral. It's like she's not going to know necessarily what that means as a student. That doesn't mean I'm not going to teach her what neutral spine is, but I'm like, I need your spine to be more neutral. It looks like you need more support in your front ribs. And that's going to help a lot if your shoulders are right over the wrist versus behind. And so yeah, that's a quick example. We start again, like from the beginning, looking at posture, looking at, posture is Tadasana. What is Tadasana like in all these different positions? How does it change? What is moving and what is stabilizing? To move something well, there always needs to be many things stabilizing against that movement for good functional movement, for a good energy exchange, for good stability. And that all of that energy efficiency, that just comes down to like preventing injury. Because when something is less efficient, if something is moving a lot, but there isn't enough stabilization, that's, less efficient. It's also less stable, and that's, potential for injury. And so we don't want to talk about like, oh, these are the bad things that can happen, but it's like, what are the reasons you want that? And at the end of the day, all of those good things are preventing injury because they're making you're getting smarter, your movement intelligence improves. That means your adaptability improves. That means off the mat when you're moving around, you're going to be able to respond to being offset, to being in a weird position. You'll still understand, your body will have been primed to know how to protect it, like going back to feeling that safety. And it just starts, we start simple and then we build. Yeah. Good.
I am going to put in the chat and I'll include it. I'll
What Rhonna
include
didn't
it.
show you, I don't know if you want to, but can you show him like all the timestamps that, so the thing
Oh
that
yeah,
makes
of
it
course, of course,
exciting
of
is
course.
not only have
Um,
all of the knowledge,
yes, yes, yes.
all the information, but then you get past
Here.
questions that people have asked me. And then she has everything. I mean, the
All
organization
right.
in Rhonda's education is really unparalleled.
Okay.
So
It's again, it's kind of in this bonus content zone. So we have this training Q&A, which is supplemental. And this is a series. So earlier, kind of in post-COVID times, we used to have our live calls structured in the sense that we did a lot of Q&A. We had almost 5 hours of calls per week of Q&A, and it was amazing. But it was a lot of Q&A. So we have all of these calls are still recorded here and timestamped. And what's really neat is that when you go to this right here, process for questions, and this is for you, if you have questions, you can click specifically on this image and it'll take you to a spreadsheet. And you can search and you can go, I have a question about the shoulder. And then you can see that there are 25 different times that shoulder came up in a question. What can be going on in the shoulder girdle if you have a clicking while walking hands back to happy squat? So you can kind of like look for a question that resonates with what you have. And then it will show you this particular question was in the week 3 call 1. So then you go backwards and it's at an hour and 30 minutes. So when you go back and you go to these videos that were listed there underneath week 3, call 1, and you can even see it here. There's Anita's question about the shoulder. And then you can just zoom forward in the video and just go to the 1 hour and 30 minute mark. And you can hear Lara address and answer that particular question. So there is also an entire component of the training here in these pre-recorded calls that are at the very end that will allow you to kind of dive in a little bit more into content, and kind of that spreadsheet is gold, because you can really search for a gazillion different things, and it's here under training Q&A supplemental for the searchable spreadsheet. And so that's really fantastic. And the way you saw that time stamping there, that's how the time stamping works in our live calls that we will do together as well. When we record the call and upload it, we do time stamp what's happened. So especially if, let's say, Sally, you were like, Lara, can you look at my down dog? And then obviously you're working with Lara, you're not watching yourself. Later, you can see, oh, at the 25-minute mark, that's when Lara looked at my down dog. And then you can go back and you can just watch the part where you were being the person who was demoing. So that time stamping, I think, is really helpful and supportive to be able to go back and look at previous calls, but also to look in a different lens through a call that you demoed in or that you missed, so that you kind of can see at a glance what happened in the call.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
massive amount of material. So I always want to point that out, because that's Rhonna. She's taken all of my blabbing and she's put it into she's put it into form, you know. Plus, there are questions that you might have, and you can be like, let me see, did Lara say anything about, you know, torn rotator cuff? Boom, and it'll come
Yeah.
up. There's weeks and weeks of information. So
Yeah.
you
This
could
is really neat.
really, you could dive into this, and just, there could be thousands of hours of learning there.
Truth. I actually don't know how many hours of pre-recorded content is, and
Yeah.
just most certainly there's way more than 200 that's there with all the
Yeah,
pre-recorded calls as well. But it's a lot. Yeah. So it's good. I mean, the more knowledge is power, right? So the more information you can have about your body, you can feel empowered, and you can help create change for yourself and for others.
yeah.
All right. I would like to offer that if you choose to sign up for the training within the next 48 hours, so we'll say by close of business day, it'll be like, I want to say midnight Eastern time on the 29th of July. If you sign up for the training in the next 48 hours, we will gift you a free 30-minute private session with either myself or another senior teacher. Her name is Tegan. So you'll be when you check out, there's ability to purchase a guided training session as well. If you know you want a spare, you're welcome to purchase a spare as well. But we are offering for anyone who is registered for this call, whether you attended live or you're watching this recording, if you choose to purchase by July 29th by midnight Eastern time, we will grant you a 30-minute private with either myself or with Tegan. It is something that I manually grant. So when you purchase the training, once I see that the purchases come through, I manually grant it after I cross-reference our registration list. So you won't see it immediately, but it'll be there within 24 hours when I then actively grant it to you. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you are needing a small little incentive to
Plus
sign your name on the dotted line sooner rather than later, Sally, then within the next 2 days, you would have that opportunity. So yeah. Okay. Any other last minute questions?
No, not for me.
Okay, wonderful. If anything comes up, you all are receiving emails from LYT with regards to the timing of all of this. The recording email will come out later today. You can always reply to that education@lytyoga.com email. It will come directly to me, and then I can answer any questions that come up. And if there's something for Lara, we can always get you in contact with her at lara@lytyoga.com as well.
Yeah,
so,
Lara,
okay.
Email me. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for anybody who's watching, and come and get lit with us. We love this more than anything. Love it so much. The training is really amazing. Yeah.
Thank
you
so much.
Thank you
I
so
really
much.
appreciate it.
All right.
Bye,
Bye. Thanks,
everyone.
Anna.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.